On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, the Dune 2 official reviews are now out, and they are staggeringly good. Also, Marvel's Thunderbolts? Yeah, they quietly a number of months ago brought on the new writer, who happens to be the award-winning showrunner of The Bear and one of the executive producers of BoJack Horseman. That's pretty cool. Shogun is holding 100% on its critical rating right now. James Gunn says he would love to have Lord and Miller, because he's such a huge fan of the Spider-Verse, to come over and do something in DC with him. Jurassic World has got a new director. Remember, they announced they had a director, and next day they announced that he left? Well, now they got Gareth Edwards, the director of Rogue One, coming in to do that. Also, Disney reports are now coming out in the Hollywood Reporter and other outlets that Disney is like totally reprioritizing. They are now putting theatrical releases as their number one priority over streaming, which is a significant move. And speaking of Marvel, they apparently have made the decision they are going to take the name of Kang out of Avengers Secret Wars or Avengers Kang Dynasty, and might even be taking Kang out altogether. That and a few things more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from y'all right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around so we talk about our absolute favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff, not just giving you our opinions, but also giving you some background and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or different than ours. Joining me in studio today, we got Ray Ora.
Good morning, everyone.
Jonathan Voico is here.
Hello.
Robert Meyer Burnett's in the house.
It's amazing to be here, John.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it into two parts. In the first part of the show, we're going to talk about these predetermined topics that I just listed off. And then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. Now, if you got a thought, comment, observation, question for the show that you'd like us to address, go ahead and leave it in the super chats over in there in the live chat. And we'll get to those as long as they're appropriate to be used on the show and the second part of the show. All right, guys, with that down, let's get things kicked off with this. My most anticipated movie of the year is Deadpool 3. But my second most anticipated movie of the year, and then it's a long way down to the number 3, is Dune Part 2. I love the first Dune movie. I was talking to Rob about it, saying I just can't imagine, when you look at the books, I can't imagine anybody translating the books to movies better than what Denis Villeneuve did in Part 1. Won 6 Academy Awards, the most of any other movie that year at the Oscars. It was supposed to come out at the end of 2023. The writers and the actor strike left them without the ability to use their star-studded cast to promote the film, so they pushed it out. And now I'm personally just 4 days away from watching it. And then another about 5 days after that, it opens up publicly. Very exciting. Now, we had heard the first reactions from the public audience that saw it in France. So just average filmgoers went to go see it, and the average filmgoers lost their minds. We talked about that about a week and a half ago. Well, then the premiere happened, and the journalists who went to go see it at the premiere put out their first initial reactions, and they were off the charts, just like the filmgoers were. But you know how it is. I mean, sometimes your first reaction, you only have 140 characters or whatever it is you're going to put in there. And you want to focus on the good stuff and you leave everything else for the full reviews. Well, the full review embargo for Dune Part 2 lifted today. And as of right now, there are 91 full reviews registered with Rotten Tomatoes. And it is currently holding a 97%. 97% over there. We've seen, a number of people that I know who have seen the film have absolutely lost their minds over it. I was talking to one guy yesterday who was saying things like, I don't want to get ahead of myself because I just saw it recently, but it might be my all-time favorite movie now. And this is somebody in the film sphere who's seen a hell of a lot of movies. It's like, it's just I just saw it, so I've just had the experience. Give me a week or two to think about it, but I mean, it might be my all-time favorite movie. Like, I don't know, just because that is for him doesn't mean it's going to be for me, doesn't mean it's going to be for you. But
was that Harloff?
No, it wasn't. But I saw Harloff's review too.
Because he was like weeping almost.
Oh yeah,
he was emotionally drained.
Oh yeah, no, like that dude was using words like perfection.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. But listen, I'll tell you what. The previews I've seen have been mind-blowing. The first film was insanely good. The first reactions from the film audiences was off the charts. The first reactions from the journalists were off the charts. Now the full reviews, which normally get tempered a little bit more, not getting tempered here. They're off the charts. So Rob, I mean, I can't remember the last time. I'm sure I have been. I'm just saying right now, I can't remember the last time I've been this psychotically excited about getting over to the theater and seeing a movie like I am for this Sunday. Because this Sunday, it's the advanced fan screening. So I think there's about, 60 or 70 theaters across the country that are going to do this. So a lot of people are going to get to see it on Sunday. Ray got us some tickets, so we're going to go see it on Sunday. I just can't remember the last time I've been this excited. I can't remember the last time I've seen this type of positive audience and critical reactions and ratings going into it. Are you surprised to see the numbers this high? Where's your expectation level right now? You're a big Dune guy, so what do you make of this?
Dude, first of all, it's off the charts. My anticipation for this movie is as high as it could possibly be for a film, because what I think is really important about this movie, you always describe movies as experiential events.
Right.
I don't think the first Dune, I saw it with my friend Michelle on the Warner Brothers lot in the Steve Ross Theater, which is tweaked to perfection. I don't think there's another movie that could be described as experiential as much as this can be. It truly is. I mean, it doesn't feel like you're necessarily watching a film. It feels like you're being immersed in a way that no other film does. I know you're still watching a movie and there's not sand blowing in your face, but it's the closest watching a movie can actually come to transporting you to Arrakis and feeling it. I mean, and I've never seen, I don't know, I always talk about verisimilitude and creating that quality of being real. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that comes anywhere near close to doing what this movie does in terms of being an experiential event. That was the first one. And by all accounts, everyone says, obviously, the storyline's much more amped up. We go to war in this movie. And I've always loved, I love the book since I read it when I was 10 years old. I was so excited about this and just Dune. I was watching my David Lynch 4K set. I got from Australia this really cool box set of the TV miniseries, both Dune and Children of Dune from the Sci-Fi Channel. It comes in a big box that actually has a 750-piece Lego sandworm that you get to build.
Oh my God.
Including a hardcover book.
Does it come together as a popcorn bucket?
It does not.
Oh, okay.
But I did see, hilariously, Chris Gore stuck his Dune sandworm from 1984, which is really phallic. They made it, and he stuck it in the popcorn bucket. That was too much. He's getting demonetized, I'm sure. But when I wanted to do the same thing, I'm like, I don't have a Dune sandworm, and they made ornithopters from Dune. They made model kits. I want to go back and get all that vintage Dune stuff. They made action figures.
What was the Microsoft thing, Ray? That they?
It's the ornithopter. It's the ornithopter
right?
Microsoft simulator.
Flight simulator.
Oh, that's what it was.
And
right,
you know
right.
what? You know what I got coming this week? The Lego ornithopter.
There you go.
Yeah,
I got my Lego ornithopter coming in. I'm all Duned out, buddy. I want Dune all day, every day.
We are ready to go. And I really think, I don't know what's going to make opening weekend. I don't. I'm still guessing around 75 million, but just to get that popcorn bucket might drive it to 150.
I
People are going to be lining up to get that collectible popcorn bucket.
I think, like Oppenheimer, this is a big boost for IMAX screens.
Yeah.
And I think, the design, the fact that this movie is made for large format screens and being experienced with that kind of a sound system. The loudest thing in the world I ever heard at a concert, speaking of your favorite band, was when U2 was playing the Joshua Tree Tour. And I saw them at the Rose Bowl. And I was sitting back from the stage, and when they played Bullet the Blue Sky.
Oh, I love that song.
I've never felt a sound in my body like that until I saw Dune at the Steve Ross Theater.
You haven't gone to enough raves.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah,
but it was
Robert
different.
Meyer, that's who was saying his tombstone. Didn't go to enough raves.
I did, though. I went to lots of EDM shows.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about that? I mean, the first reactions were the first reactions, but now we're getting the full reviews. It's sitting at 97%. Might go down, might go up, but there's already almost 100 in there, so I don't know how much it's going to move. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? One of the more intriguing projects coming from Marvel is the Thunderbolts. Now, this was one that when they first announced that they were going to do Thunderbolts, I couldn't have cared less. I mean, not 3 squirts of urine would I have been willing to exchange to see Thunderbolts. But then they announced the lineup. And when they announced the lineup, I was like, okay, wait a minute. You're going to have Florence Pugh in there. Strong lead. Strong lead. You're going to have Winter Soldier. Okay, great. You're going to have Walmart Captain America, who I think a lot of us warmed up to by the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You're going to have Elaine. You're going to have Valentina, forget her full name, the Countess Valentina something.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
But you're going to have, what's his name, Red Guardian?
Yeah.
Red Guardian, David Harbour's Red Guardian, who's absolutely the best thing about the Black Widow movie. And once they showed the lineup, I was like, okay, all right, I'm on board. This has a very much of a Guardians of the Galaxy eclectic mixture of character type of feel. And I'm like, I'm just the fact that David Harbour's in it makes me go crazy. Now, it's gone through some development drama because like once Bob Iger came back and gave Kevin Feige's power back, Kevin Feige started to change a lot of things. But there was a very exciting development with Thunderbolts that if you weren't already excited, this might get it to you. Holder Reporter did a story about some of the big things Marvel's been updating, but this is hidden down in a paragraph on another story that wrote this. Marvel also hired Joanna Callow, the showrunner and producer of the award-winning and acclaimed FX series The Bear that just won all the Emmys in the comedy category, despite the fact that it's not a comedy, but it's a wicked show. The showrunner and producer of acclaimed FX series The Bear to work on the script for Thunderbolts. Now, a little more digging, there were whispers of this back in November that this happened. And there were even a couple of reports that floated around, but a lot of people didn't pay any attention to it because it wasn't verified. Apparently, verified to work on the script for Thunderbolts. The Hollywood Reporter has learned the film will begin shooting in March in Atlanta. Her hiring adds a flair of prestige to the project, which stars Florence Pugh, and according to a source who has read previous drafts of the script, centers on villains and anti-heroes going on a mission that was supposed to end with their deaths.
So it's Suicide Squad for Marvel.
So basically kind of a Marvel Suicide Squad. But I'm guessing, I know Kevin Feige looked at it and said, listen, we got some characters in here that have some promise. So I'm guessing a bunch of them will probably die in it. Okay, so Rob, let's look at this for a second. You had a project that you got me interested because of this weird group of characters you're putting in there. And now to find out the showrunner and producer of one of the absolute best shows on television right now that just won all the awards. She's also, now I'm not a BoJack Horseman guy, but I know a lot of people who watch the show were big on BoJack Horseman. She was an executive producer on BoJack Horseman. She's as good as it gets right now. That they're getting her to come, and I guess they brought her in October or November, so she would have been hammering on this thing for like 4 or 5 months now. And she's either, reworking parts of the script, redid the script, retooled it, polished it, whatever. But whatever involvement she's got in this, you're bringing the person from The Bear over to do that? It's the opposite conversations than we're having about Sony right now. It's like, oh my God, you're bringing in this world-class talent. It's the opposite conversation. Rob, I got to tell you, this has got me very, very excited. And maybe for some of you guys who haven't watched The Bear, number one, watch The Bear. You will not regret it. I promise you this. You won't regret it. But maybe people who haven't watched The Bear will like, okay, this is just another name of another writer. I get that. But once you watch The Bear, you'll feel different. Anyway, Rob, you heard about this story. What's your takeaway from it?
Well, first of all, it's the tone that excites me. If you've watched The Bear, the tone, there's a lot of dark humor on that show. And the tone of The Bear and the storylines of the bear. I understand people are like, well, how does that translate to a superhero film? But it's the overall tone and the outlook into humanity that the bear brings you, I think is going to work really well. That sensibility with this overall project. That's what really excites me. So I think it's a really great hire. I think that you're going to get, again, an auteur, authorship. You know, that's what I want. I want to see this movie has to be different than other Marvel movies. And in a way, I'd like to be, you know, optimistic. And I think Marvel took a licking and it's going to keep on ticking. And so I'm hoping that with Deadpool and Wolverine, Brave New World, whatever they've retooled Brave New World into, and Thunderbolts, we'll see Marvel back on track. I think those are three very diverse kinds of projects, different kinds of stories being told, that hopefully will give us a feel of that sort of mid-Infinity Saga, Winter Soldier era Marvel, the best kind of Marvel, where you can go from the first Guardians of the Galaxy to a Captain America movie, and they're all bangers. You know, I'm hoping that, I have to say, this has, I know Brave New World's a mess, but I still think that with Deadpool and Wolverine, Brave New World, and Thunderbolts, my expectations are high again.
It's the first time in a while, I've got to say, I mean, not in like 5 years, but in a while, that I felt some legitimate optimism about where the MCU was going.
100%.
Because it's felt for a little while now like they're a little bit lost. The other thing that she brings to this too, if you watch
John,
the Bear,
Mike.
even though it's not, even though the Bear is not, sorry, I was coughing, I turned off my mic. Even though it's not a comedy, I say the Bear isn't a comedy. It shouldn't be in the comedy category. It can be viciously funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, darkly funny.
But the best thing about it that makes me excited about her coming over to the MCU is that when you look at all the characters, all the characters on the Bear, the cousins and our leads and the extended family, they are all richly fleshed out.
Yeah.
All have such distinct personalities.
I didn't realize that she was added in January to Thunderbolts, and she's from the Bear.
I didn't know they added her to Thunderbolts.
In January.
Didn't she just win the Emmy too? Yeah, I think she just won the Emmy as well. So, I mean, if she can bring that to this group of Thunderbolts where all of them are going to have this, like a really rich treatment, very exciting stuff. And like I said, it's been a while since I felt optimistic.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Deadpool 3, I've always been excited about Deadpool 3, but it's been a while since I felt that kind of optimism for the MCU as a whole. And with them going back to completely retool Captain America 4, with now all the stuff we're seeing coming from Thunderbolts, like you said, Rob, the roadmap is starting to look very positive. Deadpool 3, Captain America 4, Thunderbolts. And if, big if, but they've completely finished shooting Agatha now, and I'm very excited about that show.
Yeah, they talked about they only had to do 1 day of reshoots.
Yeah, they nailed it so much they only did 1 day of reshoots. I mean, listen, there's a number of things coming to Disney Plus from Marvel that I'm not so stoked about.
Right.
But Agatha's the one that I am. So for the first time, the future looks a little bit bright.
I'm also hoping one thing. I'm expecting that Brave New World and Thunderbolts are closely tied in with one another. You know how one film would build on another? Since they've retooled Brave New World and they know what they're doing with Thunderbolts, that we'll see more closely, like the original, like the Infinity Saga, we'll see one film build on the next.
Yes.
Really hoping for it.
But most importantly, just make good movies.
Yeah.
Just make good movies.
Yes. 100%.
And you'd be surprised how excited you will make all of the fans. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Speaking of things that I'm really, really excited about, there is a show coming that I am ludicrously excited for called Shogun. And of course, I've talked about, for those of you who've watched me or followed me since my movie blog days, I've always talked about Shogun. I read it when I was young. I mean, it's not a book for kids, but my mom always had that book around. So I read it and I loved it. Then they did the Richard Chamberlain, John Rhys Davies miniseries that totally, like, I'm just a little kid watching samurais killing each other. It's like, this is awesome. So I was completely enamored with it since I was a kid. And then I still remember that Disney call when the FX president started talking about, so we're taking on a project we go back to a feudal land. And I remember I was doing a live stream. I'm like, are they about to announce Shogun?
Yeah, that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah. And then they announced Shogun, and I totally lost my crap. I mean, I just went nuts. Well, the reviews for Shogun have started to come out from big major outlets. Granted, it's only 18 of them right now, but it's all the significant outlets. And as of right now, Shogun is currently holding, where is it here? Shogun, the limited series, is holding, and I cannot get it to move, but whatever. Shogun is holding a 100%.
There we go. We got it in there.
I got it in there just
right
barely.
in the mail slot.
100%. All right. And again, this is from like all the big major outlets and stuff like that. But what's more exciting than just the percentage number is when I'm reading the reviews, it talks about you are completely immersed in that world. That it completely takes, that it's all about, not just about the sword play and like the things that excited me when I was a kid. Samurais killing people. Yeah. But it's got that Game of Thrones political intrigue, which has always been there if you ever read the original book. Anything with Sonata in it instantly makes it good. Automatically good with Sonata in it. As a guy, Rob, who has been just waiting forever for them to do Shogun, to see what we've seen and have it look so gorgeous. By the way, all shot in Vancouver. They've totally made that feel like Japan, but it's all shot in Vancouver. For them to have done it, and what looks like in the previews to done so well, and according to the reviews we're reading, have done it so richly. I can honestly say there's never been a show I've been more excited about. Like I said that when they announced that they were going to do a Lord of the Rings show, and that was true at the time. This is the most anticipated I've ever been for a show. This totally eclipses that. I've been waiting for this since I was a kid. Rob, we're now hearing reviews. You've seen the previews, the reviews. You watched the original miniseries. Now we're seeing what the people who've seen the show are saying about it. Where's your expectation level now?
Well, like you, my three favorite miniseries of all time were I, Claudius, Shogun, and The Winds of War. But Shogun was my favorite. Maybe I, Claudius, as I got older. But Shogun was my favorite when I first saw it. I read the book. My expectations are the same that I have for Dune 2, I have for this.
Wow.
I can't wait for this. However, the potential for disappointment's there too.
Oh, yeah, huge.
But everything that I've seen of what they've shown, this production is lush. I can't wait for this, John. The only thing I know that's going to annoy me is that the theme song isn't going to be the same. Dun, 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 dun.
It's probably a good thing.
I know.
In hindsight.
I know. It's like I don't expect to hear the Toto Brian Eno prophecy theme when I watch Denis Villeneuve's Dune that they had for Lynch's version, but I still hear it in my head.
Yeah.
It's kind of like as many times as I watch Blade Runner without the narration, I still hear the narration in my head because that was all we had for 20 years. So with Shogun, I will not be able to hear the music.
By the way,
But
can I
still.
say, Jonathan's been bringing up some images here. One of the things that I have loved, and this is a weird thing to say, but we don't talk about a lot, the color grading on all the clips and all the scenes I've seen, the color grading has been masterful. Like it just feels epic and overused term. It just feels cinematic and beautiful. And I don't know who the colorist is on this thing, but man, the color grade on this looks just awesome.
Yeah, dude, it looks absolutely spectacular. I'm really interested in one of the things about the original miniseries that I loved was they didn't translate the Japanese.
Right.
So when everyone's speaking in Japanese, you're put in the position of Blackthorn, and you kind of got to learn Japanese words as you were going along. And I love that. I don't know if they're going to repeat that this time, but I kind of want them to.
See, I get like the whole idea about putting us in the shoes of the protagonist. And it's like our hero doesn't know what's being said, so we don't know what's being said.
Right.
The counterpoint to that is if the language if the dialogue in Japanese is telling good story, then I, as an audience member, don't want to be left out of that. Like if the dialogue is giving us better understanding of the character and adding more layers to the thing. So I'll trust them with whatever they do. If they do some scenes where we don't, you know what they could do? Like as Blackthorn first shows up and stuff like that, no subtitles.
Yeah.
But as he's been in the culture a bit, start
Yeah,
adding
I
the
can see that too.
subtitles,
Although
right?
I'm
and
gonna
any cutaways with the main Japanese characters, then subtitles.
Yeah.
That story. But yeah, when you want to feel that fear of like, oh, am I gonna,
The actress Yoko Shimada, who played Mariko in the original movie, her voice too is so indelible. She's like, Lord Buntaro says, I'm gonna miss that because I've watched this miniseries so many times. I love this miniseries so much. I can't wait to see this, John. I wish they'd put this in a theater.
Well, they are.
They are?
first two episodes.
This weekend, they are doing.
How did I
can't
not
remember
know
who
this?
they partnered with, but they're putting the first 2 episodes in theaters this week, but only in a limited number. And here's what happened.
Oh.
So last week we're doing the show, and they had made the announcement. We're going to show the first 2 episodes of Shogun in select theaters. I think there's like 20 or 30 across the country, and there's one I think it was the Orange, AMC Orange. And somebody wrote in and said, John, they just announced this, blah, blah. I'm like, that's awesome. As soon as the show's over, I'm going to get my tickets. And the show ended. I'm like, Ray, grab me them tickets. And then I jumped online too. Sold out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sold
They were
out in
free
like
also,
15
that's why.
minutes. It was 15 minutes from when I found out they did it to when I was, and it was all sold out. And it's just as well because I'm going to go see Dune this Sunday, as it turns out. And I'm glad I don't have to
So
face
it's your
the
big
Sophie's
birthday
choice.
weekend, but wouldn't you have liked to have seen Shogun in a theater?
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on, man.
But honestly, I
the first
probably
2
would have
episodes
chosen Dune
only.
anyway.
I know.
Probably would have chosen Dune anyway.
I know.
By the way, too, tomorrow, Avatar. You see the news trailer? Oh my God, I'm getting actually kind of. Anyway, sorry, side topic. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about that? The reviews of Shogun are outstanding right now. Once it gets to 40, 50 reviews, I'm sure it won't still hold the 100%, but they're looking really good too. Where's your anticipation level for it? Jump into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Some of you might have heard that DC is kind of relaunching. 2025, Superman Legacy comes out. It's a brand new Superman. It's a brand new DC universe under the tutelage of James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are the co-CEOs. And, Peter running the business kind of stuff, James running the creative, all that kind of wonderful stuff. So they're putting together this new universe, and they've made some announcements, things like that. Still early in development, and Superman starts shooting here pretty soon. They start shooting the movie. Of course, we got the cast and all that kind of stuff. But we're still in the honeymoon stage, right? Where there are still a lot of filmmakers and writers that are going to be needed to be brought into the fold to tell all these stories that this new DC universe wants to tell. And a couple of guys who are killing it in the genre right now is, of course, Lord Miller, who, on top of doing a lot of other great stuff, by the way, we don't talk about Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs enough. That is a really good movie, actually. It doesn't get, and that these guys did. Of course, their 21 and 22 Jump Street stuff, whatever. But their Spider-Verse movies that they shepherd over there at Sony have been, without exaggeration, a couple of the best movies we've had in the last 6 years or so. Just absolutely phenomenal. So, when James Gunn was asked on social media, because he's very active there, you ever think you'd worked with Lord Miller? He said something pretty interesting. He said this: Gunn expressed his interest in working with Lord Miller in the rebooted DCU while responding to a fan's question on Threads. The fan asked Gunn if he would work with Phil Lord and Christopher Miller for a DCU project, since Gunn had previously expressed his love for the Spider-Verse films. Gunn's response was straightforward as he said, yes, while expressing his regret for not asking the duo sooner, as Gunn had recently been in contact with the pair. Gunn stated, yes, I saw them yesterday. I should have asked. Anyway, so James Gunn, who has been very open about his gushing love for those Spider-Verse films. He absolutely loves them. He's a big fan of Lord and Miller. And, we were talking the other day that, hey, Sony, you get under the roof down the hall, you got these Lord Miller guys. You're looking for how to turn around your live action Spider-Verse stuff? Maybe go knock on their door and say, hey, you got some time? Want to shepherd some live action films? But if you're not going to do it, James Gunn will do it. I am 100% sure, because I believe Lord and Miller are cut from the same cloth as James Gunn.
Yeah.
We've seen them a number of times at CinemaCon. They've been on stage for like an hour and talking about their process and everything. And like when I watch them sitting there standing like 40 feet in front of us and talking. I'm like, they remind me a lot of James Gunn. Not as eclectic maybe as Gunn, but they seem like they're from the same familial line, if you will. And I love the idea. And of course, when Gunn says, hey, I just saw them yesterday, I should have asked. I'm like, why did you see them yesterday? What were you doing with Lord and Miller yesterday? And are you being coy here?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I don't know if we would actually see them. Lord and Miller were involved in the Lego Batman movie, were they not?
Yeah.
Which I loved the Lego Batman movie. I thought that, and it didn't make money. I don't understand. The Lego Batman movie was so freaking good. Anyway.
Hey, I like the second Lego movie.
I didn't.
I did.
I love the first one, and I love the Batman one. I didn't totally love the second Lego movie. What was it called? The second piece?
Something like that. It deserves more love than it gets.
I still can't believe the first Lego movie didn't get nominated for Best Animated Film. I thought it should have won that year, and it didn't even get nominated. Anyway, so Lord and Miller clearly already have a foot in the DC world. So I don't know if this will happen. Lord and Miller are going to be highly in demand. But if James Gunn could pull it off, I would love to see Lord and Miller in the DC universe doing whatever they wanted to do. Anyway, Rob, you heard of... What do you think about the idea of a Lord Miller coming in DC? Do you think you'd rather see them trying to shepherd something with Sony? Is it possible Gunn could even pull something like this off? What do you think?
Look, if someone said to me off the top of my head, what would you like to see Lord Miller do? I'd like to see him do Blue and Gold.
Oh, wow.
Booster Gold.
That's
and
a
Blue Beetle.
good fit. That would be a really good fit for them.
Booster Gold, a guy coming back from the future, and then they could even use Reyes as the Blue Beetle. It wouldn't be Ted Kord, which I love, but they've already got a Blue Beetle. Lord and Miller could pull it off. It's their sensibilities, and I can understand that because what they bring, James Gunn's going to have to bring a classical, timeless, mythical feel to Superman, not unlike what Donner tried to do. But Lord and Miller, their brand of comedy, like you said, they're birds of a feather, but they could bring in that and allow James Gunn to go off in a different direction than he's brought to us in, say, Guardians of the Galaxy. He's got to do something different. But Lord Miller could sort of carry on where he left off and add that humor yet anarchy to whatever it is that they're doing. So I think it'd be an amazing fit. There's a lot of great DC characters that Lord Miller, I think, would do a great job with. So it could be exciting.
Yeah, they would. Like with Batman Beyond animated movie.
Get over the...
Did you see those storyboards that were online?
Yeah.
Man.
It's not going to happen.
It's the connection is being made right now. I'm
It's
sorry,
gonna happen.
John. Sorry, hate to tell you, but Lord and Miller are coming on to give them their Spider-Verse.
No, that's not...
How is that not... why do you answer at like that far-fetched? Like that couldn't be happening.
Ain't gonna happen. They're not going to waste their time on Batman Beyond. I'm not saying I'm not saying DC won't do an animated Batman Beyond. I've been saying ever since Into the Spider-Verse came out, you know what? This opens the door for a Batman Beyond animated. Lord and Miller ain't going to waste their time on that, though. Lord and Miller won't do Batman Beyond. I love your idea of Blue and Gold, but also one of our Damaris Love in the live chat is also saying Plastic Man. They would be great for Plastic Man.
That would be good, too.
I've been reading more Plastic Man stuff. Like Comics Explained got me really more hooked on reading some Plastic Man stuff. But I remember, before you guffaw at Plastic Man, I remember this follow-up to The Dark Knight Returns, which I can't remember what the name of the...
The Dark Knight Strikes Back, or the
No,
Strikes
it wasn't
Again.
Strikes Back, but it might have been Strikes Again, but the sequel to The Dark Knight Returns graphic novel. Batman goes and breaks Plastic Man out of a government prison that he's been in. And I'll always remember this. As Batman and his team are getting ready to release Plastic, who I guess has been in prison for decades or something like that, Batman's thought bubble is going, and he's got a bunch of heroes with him. His thought bubble is going, who knows what is going on with his mind? He's been in there forever, blah, blah. But if this goes wrong, we're dead. And they haven't revealed who it is yet. They're trying to break somebody out. We don't know who it is yet. He goes, because if something goes wrong, we're dead. Because he could kill, I remember this line, he could kill all of us, ... easily. Like, whoa. And then they open the cage and it's Plastic Man. And then in recently, Comics Explained what's going on in this one too. In a Injustice Gods Among Us, I guess Superman and his government like arrest Plastic Man's son, and Plastic Man shows up. I mean, he's staring down Superman, Wonder Woman, all the, and he just doesn't give a fuck. And he's like getting right up in Superman. So it's like, holy shit, Plastic Man. Anyway, I would love to see, look, I'd love to see them do anything. Question is for you guys. What could you see Lord and Miller doing? Maybe like Rob's great suggestion of Blue and Gold, maybe something like a Plastic Man, maybe a more established hero, maybe doing whoever the new Aquaman is going to be or something like that. Maybe a Cyborg. I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got to talk about a couple things here, like the new Jurassic World movie has a Star Wars director attached to it now. Disney is going to reprioritize theatrical over streaming, downgrading their streaming priorities a little bit. And it's coming from now official sources that, it looks like Marvel is going to completely be changing Avengers Kang Dynasty, taking Kang out, maybe taking the character out altogether. We're going to talk about that and a few things more, but first we're going to take a second and hear from one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So if saving money was on your 2024 list, your odds aren't looking that great. Luckily, I have a 100% guaranteed way to save you money this year. Just switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month. I've told you guys many times that after switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my cell bill than I used to with a major carrier. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All Mint plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And don't worry about having to change phones or numbers. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So guys, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, we found out last year through Bryce Dallas Howard that they were indeed, Universal was going to make another Jurassic World movie. But, according to Bryce Dallas Howard, it was not going to be any of the returning characters. It would kind of be a new era, new characters they were going to follow throughout. Still the same world, but, you know, new characters, not bring in the legacy characters, stuff like that. It was a long time then passed. And then we found out, yep, they're moving ahead and they've got a director. And the movie's coming out in 2025. And the director was it David Leitch from John Wick Chapter 4 that they had brought on, who was going to direct it? Wow, they made this big official announcement. Literally 48 hours later. Oh, he's not directing it now. Like, what the hell happened in 48 hours? Not a good look for the studio, regardless. Then we all started wondering, well, they don't have a director now, probably not coming out in 2025. But according to new news that just came out, they've got a new director, and they're still sticking for that summer 2025 release date. This comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who wrote, "We've now confirmed that Gareth Edwards is in talks to direct Jurassic World 4 for Universal and Amblin Entertainment. Edwards, perhaps best known for his work in Star Wars anthology movie Rogue One, is fresh off the critical success of his sci-fi action movie The Creator, which was a remarkable feat in direction. With such a low budget, did such a great job on that movie. At any rate, The Creator, which is up for 2 Oscar nominations for Best Visual Effects and Best Sound. The untitled Jurassic World 4 is still set for a July 2nd, 2025 release date, though no production start date has been announced as of the time of this writing. So, March, April, May, June, July, we're talking 17, 18 months. They haven't started shooting this giant dinosaur movie, and they're still saying in like 17 or 18 months it's going to be in theaters. All right, well, let's put that aside for a second. I love Rogue One. I do. I think Rogue One is, I think you got the original trilogy, and then I think you have Andor, and then the next best thing Star Wars has ever done, I think, was Rogue One. I absolutely loved that movie, but whenever this comes up, there's always going to be the question of how much of the final movie that we saw in theaters with Gareth Edwards, how much of it was actually Tony Gilroy, who then later went on and did the Andor series. Okay, that's fine. But man, then he comes out and does The Creator, which not in my top 5 best movies of the year or anything. But when you hear what budget they made that movie for, he made it sprawling and epic and beautiful and a great story. He did a really great job with that. If he can bring some of that sensibility, and however much of his sensibilities ended up in Rogue One, to a Jurassic World, I'm not going to lie. I'm not as excited as I was with like a David Leitch being director, but this is another really good name that I would be excited about. So look, yeah, can the Jurassic World movie continue? Last one made over $1 billion, so why not? Rob, what are you thinking about this new hire?
I think it's a great hire. I mean, obviously, the script has to be great because Gareth Edwards has real vision and real scope, and they really pioneered new effects technology. The fact that they went and shot all their live action, and they don't need to put up green screens and they don't need to put up tracking marks now because the technology is advanced. And I thought the use of CG tech in The Creator was beautiful. I thought the script, wasn't perfect, but, Edwards comes out of effects technology. His first movie, Monster, he made for like 15 grand.
Which was really good.
Really good. The effects, he did those effects himself. He really has an understanding of how to best get you bang for your buck. He did Godzilla already, Rogue One, now The Creator. I think it's a good choice. I just am really interested in what the movie's going to be about, and just make people get eaten. The more human deaths that we can see at the hands of dinosaurs, I want to see bodies torn asunder. I want to see city streets destroyed by rampaging Tyrannosaurus Rexes. I want to see cars destroyed. I want to see airplanes destroyed. Just give me massive dinosaur devastation and I'll be happy.
Still to this day, my favorite scene in any Jurassic World movie of a person getting eaten.
I already know what it's going to be.
It's from the first film.
Yeah.
The lawyer in the outhouse.
It's never been surpassed.
And and it's never dated, and it blows away, and he's sitting there on the toilet, and boom, the head comes down. Best scene in a Jurassic World movie.
We need more of that.
Yeah.
Go full on R rating.
And oddly, I think that's one of my top 2. And my other favorite scene is also from that same movie, but it's just when the hunter dude is going after the Velociraptor, and then he turns his head and goes, "Clever girl."
Uh-huh.
Oh, such a great scene. Anyway, if they can bring some of that magic back, I'm all for it. I think this is a good choice. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? When Bob Iger was still CEO back in the day, he kind of pioneered and spearheaded and brought about Disney Plus. And before he left as CEO, they launched Disney Plus to a lot of success when they launched the whole thing. And it was going to be a very key piece of the overall Disney puzzle moving forward into a new era. Then Bob Iger made the biggest mistake of his CEO career when he named Bob Chapek to be his successor. And a choice that on paper looked good. It did. I was all for it. But then Bob Chapek came in and basically tore up everything Bob Iger had built. He destroyed the reputation of the CEO with the creative talent in the company. Obviously, all the stuff that he did with Pixar, they got all the Pixar employees completely pissed off. The whole nonsense that went on with Scarlett Johansson. He also then took all the creative power away from the creative people like Kevin Feige and others, created a new layer of middle management being run by a banker who would be the sole decision maker about what projects would get made and where those projects would go. All that kind of stuff. But one of the biggest things that Chapek did was decide that Disney Plus is not just a big piece of the Disney puzzle. It's going to be the sails, the wheel, the rudder, everything. Disney Plus was our number one priority above everything else. And that led to a lot of problems. From overproducing too much content to pissing off filmmakers and all this kind of stuff. Now, we've seen since Bob Iger came back, he reinstituted the power to the creative people. He removed the middle layers of management. And now it's kind of official, even though we've seen the signs. But the big outlets are now reporting Disney has signaled a major change in their direction. This comes to us from The Wrap, who wrote the following. Moana 2 was originally announced in 2020 under the short-lived CEO Bob Chapek as a streaming series exclusive to Disney+. But this change, Bob Iger deciding to take Moana 2 and make it a theatrical film, underscores a shifting strategy by Disney and other studios to move films previously planned for streaming to the big screen, in part to calm jittery investors nervous about the thin pipeline of tentpole movies after the Hollywood strikes. Now, these articles that go on when you go in and read them, that Disney has been basically putting out the signals that, listen, Disney Plus is still going to be an important part of what we do. Absolutely. But we need it to go back to what it was originally intended to be. The go-to place for people, fans, and families to have your main depository of all the Disney catalogs. Everything Marvel, everything Disney Animation, everything Pixar, everything Star Wars, all the classics, all there, right? And it's still going to be an important piece, and we will make originals for it. But remember back in 2018 when we were putting out billion-dollar film after billion-dollar film after billion-dollar film, and then we would think about putting it somewhere. Disney's now signaling we need to get back to that. We are, at least in the entertainment division, we are first and foremost a theatrical movie release company. And they haven't been that for a couple of years. And for them to come back and say, I mean, obviously parks is separate, experiences different, but from the entertainment division, we are no longer first and foremost a streaming company. We are first and foremost a theatrical film company. And I think this is an important distinction to make. Because Rob, for a long time, you and I have said, like, this is the approach and the philosophy that makes sense. Because if you want a successful streaming service and you want a movie to do great on streaming, you put it in movie theaters first. It's been proven over and over again. And Rob, we've been seeing Warner Brothers adjusting course to go back to theatrical priority. We're now seeing Disney course correcting to going back to theatrical priority. We've been hearing overtones from Netflix about looking more into the theatrical experience. Anyway, we're hearing this coming out of Disney right now. Right move, wrong move. What are the repercussions of this? How do you see this?
Wow, I mean, what a surprise. The movie business is going back to the movie business.
Go figure.
I mean, look, I don't know how many times. Look at the movies that last year, movies that were going to be streamers that ended up going theatrical, whether it was a low-budget movie like Barbarian, whether it was Evil Dead Rise, whether it was now most recently Mean Girls. The Mean Girls musical was supposed to be a streaming-only movie, cut to $100 million already at the global box office. I mean, it's like, what more do you need to know? It's so strange to me that, again, a core business tries to do some shifting. And I get it, John. I get it. Movie studios did not have a guaranteed cash revenue stream coming in on a monthly basis that they could count on. Streaming money they can count on. But they took that for granted. They didn't think to themselves, sure, you can count on it, but you also have to maintain your core business, which is theatrical releases that are given extra added value by being theatrical releases, which generates interest in your streaming service. The anticipation of seeing things on streaming is going to be from people that aren't going to the movie theaters anyway. People love going to the movie theaters to see big experiential events, like you pointed out, hence Barbenheimer, hence Dune 2 this weekend, hence Anyone But You, Sidney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, almost $200 million globally. Who would have thought that would have happened? No one.
By the way, want to point this out too. Bob Iger, who has done a masterful job since coming back. I mean, take a look at this. This is the stock price. See where I've got the line there, right there, November 2023. That's where Bob Iger returned as CEO. Look at the stock price since he's come back. I mean, because the investors are now understanding what the plan is. Everybody feels like the adults are in charge again of the schoolyard. It's pretty good. They're making all the right moves. Will it result in good results? I always tell people, Rob, when a major shift like this happens, you're not actually going to see or feel the results for a year and a half or 2 years. And other than stock price, which has been very positive, we're not going to really feel the effects of all the new changes Bob Iger has brought into a thing until some of the movies that because the Marvels had nothing to do with Bob Iger and his leadership. All that kind of stuff. We're still a little ways out, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about the fact that Disney is now reshaping themselves back to what they originally were. Theatrical first. That's our priority. Streaming's been downgraded a bit. I think it's the right move, and ultimately it's going to be what's best for Disney Plus. I think this is actually going to make Disney Plus more successful. But anyway, we'll see if that actually works out or not. All right, guys. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, in the world of Marvel,
In the world.
it has for a long time been kind of a model of consistency, right? For a long time, like from the first Iron Man, and then for the years that followed, it was banger, banger, banger. Very, very little controversy ever. I think the biggest controversy for the first 12 years of the MCU was when Edgar Wright left the Ant-Man project and they brought in Peyton Reed, because so much time had passed from when Edgar Wright came on to when it was actually time to do it, that the direction of the MCU had changed, and Edgar Wright wanted to do the movie he originally wanted to do. Kevin Feige was like, but that movie no longer fits in what we're doing. And they amicably parted ways. But that, I think for the longest time, that was the biggest controversy they ever had. They never had choppy waters. Winning cures everything. And as long as they were making billion-dollar films, everybody was happy. We don't hear about a lot of controversy. Well, that's obviously changed with Marvel lately, and of course culminated big time last year with all the drama that was going on with Jonathan Majors. And, you know, whatever side of that debate you fall on, we all agree it's a pretty big controversy. And it did cause a lot of upheaval for Jonathan's career, obviously, but also for Disney as a whole. It also didn't help that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was launching the character Kang. I mean, I know we saw him in the Loki thing, but really the big coming out party for Kang was supposed to be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And that movie did not do well, and it was a terrible movie. That got some people wondering if they should change things. Then, of course, the arrest, the trial, all that kind of stuff. So it's left a lot of people wondering, what are they going to do with Avengers Kang Dynasty? Are they going to recast Kang and stay on course? Well, according to new reports coming out of the major trades, oh no, they're changing course, and drastically. This part comes to us from IGN, who writes the following. Marvel Studios is reportedly changing the title of Avengers: The Kang Dynasty to remove the character's name entirely as the fifth Avengers film gets retooled behind the scenes. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Avengers 5 will no longer be titled The Kang Dynasty, and sources claim Marvel was already making moves to minimize the character before Jonathan Majors' conviction and subsequent firing because of the Kang-heavy Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania underperformed at the box office. The Hollywood Reporter article goes on to confirm that they are actually talking about just removing the Kang character altogether. Just altogether removing the character and not even minimizing the character, forget about recasting it, just removing it out altogether. The interesting part here for me, Rob, was them saying that even before the trial, they were thinking about minimizing the character because the Kang thing just wasn't working. It wasn't working. And we talked about this before. You know, they introduced Kang in the first season of Loki. And while I love Jonathan Majors' performance, this didn't feel like the new bigger threat than Thanos.
No.
And then they gave him his own movie. It wasn't called Kang, but it was in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. He's the big bad guy. And he got beat up by Scott Lang and some ants. It wasn't that simple.
And then the goofy Council of Kangs.
Yeah, and then like kind of a good, which I got a kick out of, I admit, but in hindsight, it was pretty goofy. But the problem was it just didn't win the audience over. No, none of the audience went, yeah, like, oh yeah, this guy puts Thanos to shame. Nobody felt that way. So it was kind of, the character was a lost cause. No fault of Jonathan Majors, who I thought delivered great performances, but it was a character that never caught on. The problem got exasperated when the fact that with the arrest, the trial, the guilty thing, all that kind of stuff, that hurt it as well. So, Rob, we've been hearing rumors for a while that Disney may want to change direction. There was even some whispers about, oh, we're just going to swap out Kang for Dr. Doom, which would bring it a little bit more in line with the more recent Secret Wars run that we've had. But this is the first time like outlets like the Hollywood Reporter are saying, Yeah, they're changing the title. It ain't gonna be called Kang Dynasty. We already knew they changed writers. We already knew that a while ago. But also talking about just removing the character altogether. And Loki season 2, we talked about this as well. Loki season 2 seems to have given them an out for that, because the ending of Loki season 2 seemed to be saying that the Kang problem solved.
Yeah.
The TVA is just now gonna go down and hunt down the remaining Kang variants, and we don't have a Kang problem anymore. And it sounds like they're maybe going to capitalize on that. Rob, what's your takeaway from the story we got there? And would moving away from Kang be premature? Is it the right move? How do you see it?
Well, John, like you said, it wasn't working. And they did not make Kang the formidable presence they hoped. I mean, obviously he existed in a really interesting milieu at the beginning of time, the end of time, outside of time. It could have been really, really well done. But I think his introduction was too sort of baroque and sort of maybe a little too esoteric. When we met him in Loki, I mean, he's not Kang then. He's He Who Remains. He's different Kang. Like, why should we fear him? And then when you see him repeatedly get defeated, where's the threat? You know, whereas obviously Thanos is an imposing character, but, you know, and Kang just was not presented as being somebody that was necessarily formidable. I mean, he kind of was, but they needed to lean in heavily more toward how he's portrayed in the comics. Now, I was looking to see, I went back and reread the Kang Dynasty storyline. It's pretty good, you know, but they have everybody in the Marvel, including the X-Men, they have everybody in that storyline. And I'm like, how can they even make that work where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now? I think it was a good idea that just didn't pan out at all on many different levels. So I think what they're doing now, it shows that, look, sometimes things don't work. You pivot. And that's what the MCU is doing. I have faith in what they're doing now with these, as we said earlier, these 3 movies coming out, Deadpool and Wolverine, Brave New World, and Thunderbolts. I think that's exciting. I think that figuring out a new take on the Avengers movies, because, John, the Avengers movies have gone from being $1.5 billion movies to $3 billion movies. Right. They're the biggest franchise title pictures, other than Avatar, in the history of cinema. You half-ass an Avengers movie, your cinematic universe is over.
Going back to the Kang thing and how they kind of dropped the ball in the introduction of Kang. When we first meet Kang, he's kind of this aloof guy, you know, in Loki season 1, and then Sylvie kills him. Then we see him in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and he loses a fight to Scott and ants and gets thrown.
And he's already stuck in the quantum realm.
Yeah, and he's already suffered a defeat. Now juxtapose that against how we met Thanos. Thanos, besides the end of the first Avengers of just turning around and smiling, like in Guardians of the Galaxy, like we meet this real badass villain with the Accuser, Ronan the Accuser, and we got Thanos sitting on a throne that everybody's trembling to, and Thanos is like, I will squash you like a bug.
Yeah.
And then our next real introduction, besides saying, I'll do it myself, but our next real introduction to him, we're in Avengers Infinity War, and what's the very first thing we see Thanos doing? Killing all the Asgardians and then beating the living shit out of Hulk. Kang, the way he's introduced, the way Thanos was introduced. And they kind of just dropped the ball on that. They should have come out stronger, I think.
And the thing is, I loved Kang in the comics. Reading Kang for years, and I was excited. Jonathan Majors, incredible performer. I like the design of the Kang character. It's just too bad it just didn't work out, but sometimes these things happen.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Is moving away from Kang the right thing? Is it being reactionary and maybe premature to move away from him? I kind of think the first thing. I think this is the right move, but I don't know. How do you guys feel about it? Whatever you think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to the most important part of our show, which is hearing from you guys. What are your thoughts, theories, opinions, questions, and observations about this or any of the other topics we discussed? We're going to get to those in just a second, but before we do, we're going to thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Factor. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Factor. You know, guys, some days it's great to prepare your own meal, but some days it's great to have wonderful, delicious meals already ready to go. Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals makes eating better every day easy. Wherever tomorrow takes you, be ready with pre-prepared, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. You'll have over 35 different options a week to choose from, including keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more. And there's even more to enjoy with over 55 nutrition-packed add-ons that help make your weekly meal planning even more delicious. So what are you waiting for? Get started today and have a feel-good week of meals ready to go. They've got snacks, smoothies, and more. Discover a wide variety of easy options for the entire day, like breakfast, midday bites, and more. And guys, you get to save. We've done the math. Factor is less expensive than takeout, and every meal is dietitian approved to be nutritious and delicious. So guys, head to factormeals.com/Campea50 and use the code Campea50 to get 50% off. That's code Campea50 at factormeals.com/Campea50 to get 50% off. And thank you to our friends at Factor for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get to the important stuff. Your thoughts. What do we got up here first?
All right, first up is Ron H., who says, have any of you watched House of Ninjas? I'm on episode 6 and enjoying it quite a bit.
I didn't even know it launched yet.
Oh, yes, it did.
When did it come out?
Last week?
Yeah,
Because I remember the trailer drop. I was like, okay, oh my God,
think
I gotta
Friday.
watch
Was it
it.
Friday?
You watched it too, Ray?
Yeah.
Oh my God, how come nobody told me it was
I've watched
out?
2 episodes.
And?
Ninjas, dude.
Episode 4. You know
Ninjas.
Ninjas.
what's funny about this show? Just from the trailers, I thought it was going to be more serious. There's a lot of even like the music sometimes.
No, it's like a comedy.
It's like a comedy.
It's like a comedy.
It's great.
The trailer did not feel like that at all.
It's
Yeah.
funny. And you know what? Ninjas.
Yep.
All right. What's next?
It's no American Ninja, but, nothing is.
Raymond Verada says, Borderlands trailer just dropped. Reactions?
Meh.
Felt very James Gunny as far as the music
It felt
used.
like they were. Look, I really like Eli Roth. I'm a big fan of Eli Roth. I've had a chance to sit down with Eli Roth on a couple of occasions. I really like the guy. And I've been really anticipating. I mean, they announced this movie like 5 years ago. And I think they finished filming it like 3 years ago or something along those lines. It's a terrific cast.
It's a movie?
Yeah,
I thought it was a sequel. Okay.
it was a video game.
Okay.
It's got an absolute, you got some Oscar winners in there. It's a terrific cast. It's got potential. Like, I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, this could be really good. The trailer's not killing it for me, though. Did you see the trailer?
Oh, yes.
What do you think about it?
I thought it looked like a Roger Corman ripoff of Guardians of the Galaxy. To me, what Battle Beyond the Stars is to Star Wars or the Magnificent Seven, this looks like to Guardians of the Galaxy, which, by the way, isn't a bad thing because I love Battle Beyond the Stars. And it looked a lot of fun. Kate Blanchett's clearly having a good time. It just looked surprisingly derivative. Now, I know they're basing it on a video game. I know, like, Eli Roth left, and they stopped shooting. I will say this. I want to see it. I don't expect it to be great. But like you, look, Cabin Fever. I'm a big fan of Hostel 2.
I
Not
prefer
just
the
Hostel.
original. I prefer
It's
the
good,
original.
but I love Hostel 2.
This was actually the Borderlands game was the fastest I have ever traded in a game. And not to say that it was a bad game, but it was a moment where I said maybe I'm not good at video games. That game I couldn't even get past the first enemy. Like the first small thing that shot at me killed me.
Are you sure you didn't have the difficulty level set?
No.
to like master or something?
It's just the game. That type of game is just not for me. Like I was telling Jonathan, where the hit points are involved, where it's not one shot or two shots, you have to keep hitting them. I'm not good at those games, so I traded that in the next day, I believe, for half the amount that I paid for it.
I gotta admit though, the one part that kind of made me was like when they're telling the girl in the backseat, roll up the windows. No, I don't want to roll the and piss comes in. It's like, that's called pee. She's like, it's in my mouth. I will admit I laughed. I laughed at that. And look, again, the trailer has potential.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's potential to be really good and also potential to be really bad.
It kind of
Kate Blanchett. How bad can it be?
This is going to be a terrible pull that most people are going to be like, what? But it reminded me of Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, starring Michael Ironside as the Overdog. There's one for the
Michael
Is that
Ironside.
on one of those special channels that you have to?
special. No,
Pay
it was
high price
it was
for?
back in the 3D craze, the early 80s, along with Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin.
Is it weird that whenever I mention or hear somebody mention Michael Ironside, besides the fact that we first met him in that V series, and despite the fact he's one of the stars of one of the worst cinematic films ever made in Highlander 2, but when I hear Michael Ironside, the only thing that goes through my head is, why am I forgetting the name of the movie with the giant bugs? And
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers and Michael Ironside with his legs being bitten off by bugs turns to Rico and says, this is all I think about. Whenever I hear the words Michael Ironside, I hear, Rico, you know what to do. And then Rico shoots, yes, sir, shoots him in the head. It's like,
Dude,
it's
you
like all
gotta-
I think about.
Come on, he was Daryl Revick in Cronenberg Scanners. He's a
Yeah.
good Canadian kid.
Yeah, and he was, by the way, he was
do
in
this the
Flash. He was in the
Scanner
Flash
way.
TV series for a little
He's
bit, too.
there. Come on, he's great.
Rico, you know what to do. All right, what's next?
All right, we got Table Creed who says, if the villain in Venom 3 is a symbiote, I'm out. The movie would need Scorsese's seal of approval to get me to watch it. It's just lazy at that point.
There is even in some great comic book movies, there is a definite pattern that in their first film, they fight a version of themselves. Iron Man fought Warmonger. Ant-Man fought Yellow Jacket. Even when they did Black Widow, Black Widow has to fight one of the other ballerinas. Venom fought another symbiote. Okay. I was even willing to let that go for the second one because, I mean, it's Carnage. Or like, okay, so yeah, it's Carnage. Yes, it's yet another symbiote, but it's Carnage. I love the Venom films. The first one more than the second. I really hope they don't do another symbiote in the third, but I think they are. And if they are, and I don't know for a fact that they are, but if they are, I hope it's a damn good story. It better be a damn good story. Otherwise, I hope they bring in another kind of Venom, another kind of villain, I should say, because I don't want to see another symbiote fight. All right, what's next?
Alex says, have you seen Shot Caller, a film with Nikolaj Coster-Waldau and John Bernthal?
I don't even know that I've heard of it.
I've never seen it.
I don't. It's definitely was never a theatrical film, that's for sure. But I don't think I've ever. The only thing I've seen, who was Nikolai, who was Jamie Lannister, right? The Kingslayer in Game of Thrones. The only thing I remember seeing him in outside of Game of Thrones was there was that comedy out a bunch of years ago with 3 female leads. One of them was a super hot actress at the time, and they all found out they were seeing the same guy who was cheating on all of them with each other. Does anybody in the live chat remember the name of the movie I'm thinking about? Because like it was like the super mega hot model who I think is now married to a professional baseball pitcher.
The other man, the other guy,
Is that what the name of it was?
Katherine Heigl.
Was Katherine Heigl in that, or the other woman, something like that?
The woman.
So Shot Caller came out in 2017, and it also had Lake Bell in there. It's a like a newly released prisoner.
I love Lake Bell. Let me see.
Southern California.
It was indeed the other woman. That's what it was. Let me bring up so the cast was Cameron Diaz, Leslie Mann, and Kate Upton. That's who the actress was. So it was Kate Upton, Leslie Mann, and Cameron Diaz. Great cast. Not a very memorable comedy, but I think that's the only thing I've seen him in since Game of Thrones.
You got to see God as a Bullet.
Oh,
which
I
is
don't
recent.
recognize that one.
It's a recent film. It's
a
pretty.
straight to streaming one?
Yeah, it's really hardcore, to be honest. You
And
can
is he
borrow
in
my
that?
disc if you want.
Is he in it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that would explain it. All right, what's next?
We got Lori Howard who says, now that tech is updated, how would you feel about a Universal Soldiers reimagining a deeper story with a bit more action? Could be awesome, in my opinion.
I don't know that anybody would go to see it. I think Universal Soldier, for the average film goer, is kind of synonymous with a cheesy something.
It's pretty cool, though, that first one.
I would say this. Do it, and don't call it Universal Soldier. Yeah, because I think you're right. I think that's a story with modern technology is kind of ripe for a remake. But it's a hard sell. So I think you call it something else and do that. I'd be down for, I don't know. You think that something like that would work today? Not work as in be okay, but do you think audiences would go to see it?
You know what? I do think Universal Soldier is kind of a perennial on cable and all that. But I don't know if audiences really remember it now. Because it was never great shakes. It was never an A-list. It was always B-list.
No, it was not.
And you know you have Dolph Lundgren fighting Jean-Claude Van Damme. Awesome, but even that's B-level.
Yeah.
So
what do you think of my idea about, okay, yeah, do it, but just call it something completely different. Treat it like it's a new
Well, I
thing.
think, but you know, they keep the name because it's of the IP. But I think the direct-to-video sequels kind of really diminish that brand.
Oh yeah,
Not that it
completely
was
did.
not that
That's
it was
why
a
I
great
don't
brand
think,
in the first
like,
place.
The advantage of people recognizing the name is actually something that hurts it right now, I think. I think it's not something you want people to remember. I think you call it something new. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, if anything, why didn't remake Time Cop?
Oh, Time Cop was good.
It was good.
You know what the other Jean-Claude, you know what the most underrated Jean-Claude Van Damme movie was? And I'm freezing on the title of it. It's when he's a security guy at a hockey arena.
Oh, Sudden Death.
Sudden Death. Thank
Peter
you.
Hyams. It's one of the best
You
Die
got all
Hard ripoffs.
excited.
I think that's the most
Yeah.
underrated Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Is it?
Sudden Death. Is it? That's right. Is it? Is it though? All right. What's next?
Kyler Hoddick says, I think it's unfortunate that you've spent so much more time talking about Madam Web, which you didn't like, versus movies you do like, such as American Fiction or Poor Things. Thanks for all you do.
I mean, yeah, but there's other than American Fiction is awesome. Jeffrey Wright could be a dark horse in the best actor category. The film could be an upsetter like it just did at the BAFTAs. It could upset Oppenheimer for best adapted screenplay. What else is there to talk about? Like, I was talking about this yesterday on Open Mic. It's that the thing about, here's what it is. Somebody asked me, which was the bigger disappointment to you, Madam Web, or which was the bigger failure, Expendables 4, which I walked out of, versus Madam Web, which I didn't walk out of. And somebody asked a very legit question, like, you think Madam Web was even worse than Expendables, but you didn't walk out of Madam Web. I said, here's the thing. And this is why probably more discussion happens around Madam Web, is because unlike, say, Expendables 4, which it was an inconsequential film, there isn't an Expendables cinematic universe. Nobody was ever expecting, even if Expendables 4 did well, that there would be an Expendables 5. It was a movie, and it ended there. The thing about Madam Web is, no pun intended, but it has connective threads to a lot of other things cinematically. There are larger repercussions at play, such as the state of Sony, this entire cinematic universe. We've got 3 other movies just in the planning and people still whispering about a merger between the Sony Spider-Verse and the MCU. And the repercussions of Sony and the themes, the movie industry themes attached to that movie are far more wide-ranging. The unfortunate consequence is that, yeah, we do end up having to spend more time talking about a Madam Web and the repercussions thereof than, say, a brilliant film like American Fiction. But when we're talking about Madam Web, we're not just talking about Madam Web. We're talking about an entire studio direction. We're talking about the future of a larger cinematic universe. We're talking about other films that are supposed to come out. We're talking about, thematically, we're talking about things like how studios put certain writers in projects, or the approach and the philosophies that they take. And these are all discussions that come out of Madam Web as the root. And so while we are talking more about Madam Web than American Fiction, we're actually talking about a lot of other topics at the same time, because there are a lot of repercussions from that. I don't know, Rob, it is unfortunate when something like Madam Web comes out. It's like, because Expendables 4 comes out, it was rotten. I said it's one of the worst films I've ever seen. And then the discussion got to end. And we never talked about Expendables 4 again.
Right.
But with Madam Web, there are larger repercussions. And so we end up talking more about it.
Well, absolutely. And also, look, you've got Sony that has this sort of adjunct to what arguably the most popular Marvel character. So you have the MCU over at Disney, and then you've got this character that's owned by Sony, and they've tried to put them together. And now you're watching Sony do two different things. They've got their animated Spider-Man universe. It's terrific, Academy Award winning.
Yeah, just world-class stuff.
And that's going in one direction. And then you've got this weird thing with Morbius and Madam Web and now Craven. And you're wondering, what the hell are they trying to do? Why is one track the track we all want to go down, that's satisfying, that's making good money, that everyone loves, critical acclaim, really uses the Spider-Man property the way it should be used? And then inexplicably, we get a Madam Web. So there's a lot more there from a business and Hollywood standpoint to be baffled over and be incredulous over, like, how does this happen? Whereas American Fiction, based on a acclaimed novel, one of our favorite actors in Jeffrey Wright, has a lot to say about the current day and age, and it's good, as it should be. So there's not a whole lot beyond that. This is a really good movie with a great performance. It's going to win some awards. What more do you say?
Now, here's an interesting thing. So I've said on this show that, look, if Craven, and look, Craven might be great. It might be terrible. But I've said, look, Sony, if people at Sony, listen to me, I'm speaking to you. If you know in your heart of hearts that Craven is not good, and I don't just mean, could have been better, but I mean like really not good, like Madam Web and Morbius, just pull it. Do what Warner Brothers did with Batgirl, just kill it, put it away. Now, when I've said that, though, some people said, John, you don't understand, though. Sony has to have a Spider-Man movie come out every X number of years in order to keep the rights. And I said, actually, no. You know what the language in the contract says? They've got to be in production of a new Spider-Man movie within every number of X years, which they do. But they don't have to put it out in theaters. Because they could kill that movie and then say, we're developing and we're going to go on to day one of shooting of El Muerto, or, you know, what was it again? The Disco Hustler? No, who what's the new one they were working on? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but they just got to be in production of something. And if they ultimately decide to kill it, they can kill it and be in production of something else.
And with Expendables, it was kind of obvious where they went wrong. I mean, for me, it was how do you give me an Expendables movie and not have Sylvester Stallone in it at all?
Well, he was in it.
Yeah, he was in it, but like they took that away right away.
By the way, our live viewer Connor Donahue is Hypno Hustler.
Oh yeah,
thank you. Hypno Hustler. That's right. Just be in production and you set the clock. But listen, do yourself a favor. Don't run your image into the ground anymore. If Craven is good, by all means, God bless. Let's put that thing out in theaters. If it's as bad as Madam Web and everything else, just kill the damn thing.
If Sony if they're going to do anything, they need to read somebody at the studio. Read the current iteration, read Hickman's run of Spider-Man, the new Ultimate Spider-Man. Go adapt that. It'll make a lot of money.
And hire good writers.
Well, it's about Peter Parker 20 years later.
Yep. Oh, I know. It's so good.
Put Andrew Garfield in it where he gets to be Andrew Garfield with a beard. Go make that movie.
Yep. You know, it's funny. We were talking to Open Mic yesterday. Somebody said, you know what Sony should do? They should just do Amazing Spider-Man 3. I'm like, nah, they killed that for a reason. But what you can do is still bring back Andrew Garfield if you want, and that's the kind of story you can do.
That story is a banger, and I'm sure people at Sony are like, "What's that?" Which is their problem.
Lord Miller bet they know it.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
All right, what's next?
I got to take these off screen because Screen Elements isn't loading it. So Josh Becker says Dune proves we will peak in March, which is crazy.
What
I
does
don't
that
know what
mean?
you mean by peak.
Meaning like the
For
best
the year,
movie of the year.
Oh, yeah. Listen, we haven't seen it, so obviously we don't know. I'm sure there are going to be some fabulous movies coming out this year. But my early guess
We've got
is that
Furiosa and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in May.
We got Godzilla and Kong coming.
Come on. That's in March.
I mean, we got a lot of good movies going, but come on. We all know Dune 2 is going to win Best Picture. Is going to be the best movie of the year.
By the way, David Zaslav sitting back going, yeah, I got Godzilla X Kong, and I've got Dune coming out in the same month.
Yeah, this is going to be Dune's going to be a big win for them. Dune's going to be a big win. And I think Godzilla versus Kong, I don't think Godzilla versus Kong is going to be a $700 million movie, but I think it's going to make them money.
And you know what? It's going to get butts in the seats.
Yep. Yeah, I think
I'm
people are going to go.
looking forward to both of those movies. Go Warner Brothers.
All right, what's next?
All right. Connor Mullis with a $20 super chat.
Thank you, man.
Excuse me. Hi, John. Earlier today, my grandfather passed away.
Oh, no.
I wanted to say thank you to you and your crew for never failing to make me smile. You all are excellent.
Oh,
You are all excellent.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. You know, I always talk about how one of the most wonderful things about movies and the communities that talk about them is it doesn't solve our problems, but it gives us a temporary reprieve. You know, I myself, in the last couple of years, lost my Italian grandfather, who I was named after, my grandfather Giovanni, and just last year, my beloved grandmother, my nonna, passed away. And look, we all lose grandparents, but that's the way of life. But it sucks and it hurts, especially if you had a close relationship with them, as I did with my grandparents. And it really sucks. But like you, one of the things that was a real blessing to me was being able to go to movies and being able to talk with friends about movies. And again, it didn't remove the pain of losing my grandparents. But what it did was it just gives me moments of reprieve, and it lets me just refresh and stuff like that. And I'm so sorry for your loss. And thank you so much for being here. And we're really lucky that you're a part of our community. So thank you so much for that. All right, what's next?
We've got Gray Fox, who says Borderlands movie trailer has dropped. Have you watched it yet? I'm a fan of the games. They've done an amazing job recreating the worlds and characters. You
know what? Like I said, the trailer's meh for me. Maybe there's potential, but I say that as somebody who did not play the game. And if I had played the game, I would look at it and go, wow, this is like bringing me into that world. So I'm at a disadvantage. So hopefully it lives up to the positive side of the potential.
You know what? If nothing else, Kate Blanchett with a gun in her hand.
Yeah. And
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. I didn't know that was Jack Black
doing the voice. I mean, it does look, the thing is, the movie looks fun and it looks appealing. But again, even though it's got those Metal Storm, Space Hunter vibes, I'm in.
And listen, you also got Academy Award winner Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
And that you literally have Academy Award winners in this film. So how bad can it be? Hopefully not bad. All right, what's next?
Cupcake Bliss with a $70 super chat.
Oh my God, thank you, Cupcake Bliss, for supporting us on that level.
This morning, Virgin Radio MTL reported on a story about...
That would be Montreal.
Oh, Montreal. About Alan Ritchson and how he apprehended a car burglar by going full reacher on him while on a date night with his wife in the old part of Montreal.
Yep.
You may find the story on Jimmy Fallon. He is Batman.
Yeah, well, that actually happened over a week ago. And we kind of referenced it and talked about that. So yeah, apparently he was out with his wife in Montreal. By the way, the old quarter in Montreal, so gorgeous, so beautiful. Anyway, so was out for dinner and literally saw somebody like breaking into a car, and he single-handedly ran him down and then held them till police got there. Yeah, full-blown reacher. I mean, again, it happened last week. This isn't a new story, but it's pretty cool stuff. All right, what's next?
Chris Miner says, move to a new city, and my first movie will be the premiere of Dune 2.
Nice.
Deciding whether to see it in Dolby or Prime. I've never been to a Prime theater. What's the difference, and what do you prefer?
First of all, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
Right? If you go to IMAX, hey, listen, Dune is made for IMAX, man. You're going to have, Ann and I just watched the first Dune in IMAX again. It's going to have an amazing experience. It's great. My personal favorite is the AMC Prime Dolby Cinemas. The main difference besides the IMAX, clearly this huge high resolution image, which is crazy, is the Dolby Prime operates on it's a relatively new, it's been around for a couple of years now, this dual laser projection system, which simply has the best dynamic range of any movie screen you're going to see. It has the deepest blacks, the brightest brights, the richest colors. The IMAX screen is a higher resolution, huge screen, very immersive. It's fabulous. It's a win. The Dolby Prime, the dual laser system, the Dolby Atmos surround sound system, it is my personal favorite movie-going experience, but that's a matter of taste. You can't go wrong with either of them. Rob, when you have a choice, like you're going to have Dune, right? You're going to have your first screening of Dune, and you're faced with the option, IMAX screen or Dolby Vision Prime.
Well,
Which
I'm
one
going
are you going
IMAX.
for? You're going that's understandable.
Because it really, for me, it's how is a movie filmed, and they film certain sequences in IMAX. I don't think the whole movie's in IMAX. So if they've shot in IMAX, I want to go see it in IMAX. That's the way. But any other movie, like when we saw The Batman, when you had that screening, didn't we see it in Dolby Vision or the Dolby?
Yep.
We
yeah,
saw
we
it
did.
in a lot of theaters.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw it many times in a lot of theaters.
Yeah, but if something is shot in IMAX, I want to go see it in IMAX. And another thing about IMAX is the sound. You know, the gigantic thunderous. Not that you don't get that with Dolby as well, but you know, IMAX just can't be beat. I'm seeing it, as I said, this next week. I'm seeing it Friday the 1st at 7 a.m.
Very nice.
Yeah, because they're all, we got great seats. All the seats are sold out for the opening IMAX. A friend of mine calls me and goes, "How would you feel about going to see it at 7 a.m. at Universal?" I'm like, feel pretty good about it.
All right.
What a way to
What's
start the
next?
day.
All right, we got Megan Red, who says with a $20 super chat, "Hey crew, I'm a lifelong Jurassic Park fan, and my dream director for the property has been Gareth Edwards. I wasn't pumped for the new Jurassic until the news of Edwards directing dropped. I think I manifested this. Let's go."
Yeah, listen, again, I don't think Gareth Edwards is a top 5 director in the world. But when I look at his sensibilities and the things he's done and the types of stories he's told, I think it's a very good fit. So if you had asked me, "Hey, John, just pull out 3 or 4 names of your dream director to direct," I wouldn't have mentioned Gareth. But then when they said Gareth, I'm like, you know what? That's a really good fit. And I think he's going to do a really good job with it. All right, what's next?
Talkie75 says, "My time to shine. Hello." Said also that the part Cavill agreed to play is not Dr. Doom. My intuition says it's indeed Cyclops.
My intuition says that the story's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Cyclops. But in this fantasy world, let's assume because it could be. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I don't believe it is, but it could be. If it is true, that's a huge asterisk if. But if it were true, Cyclops would be a really good character for him to play. The problem with Cyclops is if Marvel is going to go heavy into X-Men over the next decade or so, Henry's already in his 40s.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Right? Henry's in his 40s. And which means I believe there are many roles he could play in the MCU. Many roles that he would be great in. But if Marvel's about to go into a real X direction for the next decade or more, and then Cyclops is going to be one of your foundational pillars. At least he should be. Is can you start off with an actor who, let's face it, by the time they film something with Cyclops, you're talking about a 42, maybe a 43-year-old Henry Cavill starting. There are other characters you could do that with. I don't know that you could do that with Cyclops.
I want Henry Cavill to play Mr. Sinister.
Oh, he would be such a good Mr.
He would
Sinister.
be one of my favorite X-Men villains. I mean, Mr. Sinister is kind of a dumb name. I'll admit it.
Sure,
but I love it.
We'll just call him Nathaniel Essex.
Yeah, Nathaniel Essex. Which, by the way, nice British name.
Oh yeah,
Nathaniel Essex. He would be great, and give him that badass, the white face, the gold, the red crystal.
You know who'd be really good? You know who'd
lips.
be a really good Mr. Sinister? Remember, we're talking about a make-upped, prosthetics maybe, whatever character. So age isn't really the issue. Jeremy Irons, I think, would be a really cool Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, he's just old.
He's just
And
old,
I love it.
right? But I mean, if you want to see him human, then he can't be it. But if he's always going to be in an outfit, maybe you could do that. I don't know. I'm sure there are other British guys that would be really good at it, but I just Henry's a little bit old to play Cyclops. Although he'd be a great Cyclops for 1 or 2 movies, but I don't know. All right, what's next?
We got Michael F. Sotelo says, "What disappointed me is I felt there were moments in Madam Web where you can see the potential of a good story. They just didn't execute it right. But I will say Evil Spider-Man is kind of creepy."
I 100% agree. There were the bones there of a good story. There wasn't a good story, but there were the bones there of a good story. It's one of the concepts that got me fascinated about it initially when they mentioned, Brett, we're going to have a guy, there was a little bit of a Terminator aspect, all that kind of stuff. Now, it didn't turn out to be somebody trying to prevent the birth of Spider-Man, which would have been more interesting. But still, the concept of there's this villain who, there's this collection of heroes that are going to kill him in the future. So he's like, screw it, I'll take them out now. Kind of a reverse Adolf Hitler. Like, would you go back in time and kill a baby Adolf Hitler? Like the post-credit scene in Deadpool. It's like, I don't know if I can do this. Like he's holding the baby Hitler. I don't know if I can do this. So the concept is a nice little foundation that you can build a good story around. But concept is 5% of it. Because I've seen really good movies based around questionable concepts and still ended up with great movies. And we've seen movies with great concepts that turned out to be bad. And like 95% of it is in the execution. It's in the execution. And that's where they drop the ball. All right, what's next?
We got Jay Loco who says, Zod's I will find him equals Fades I will kill.
Whose?
Fades.
Oh, you're talking about the character in Dune.
Fade
Okay, yeah,
Ralph.
in Dune. Yeah. Oh, listen. When Michael Shannon, there is so much rage. I will find him. Michael Shannon does rage so good because when he talks, it's so gentle. And so then when he flips that switch and goes rage monster, man, Michael's, ever since he was in Boardwalk Empire, like Michael Shannon, he's the man, dude. He's so good. I love him. All right, what's next?
We got Amin with a two-parter. He says, Harloff was almost speechless in his Dune reaction vid. He used words like masterpiece and perfect. Seeing the reviews today has gotten me even more hyped, as if that was even possible. How can I temper my expectations? Haven't been this excited for a film since Endgame.
Here's how you temper your expectations.
Get drunk. Oh.
Think about all the other movies you were sure was going to be great and ended up not.
Think of all your letdowns in your life.
Yeah, just think of the other letdowns. I mean, seriously. Look, I was super excited about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania because I love Peyton Reed. I love Paul Rudd in the role of Scott. I love the Ant-Man movies, and that was like really disappointing for me, like so disappointing. I go back to this one. Gangster Squad. I go back to Gangster Squad all the time. That was a movie that I was 100% sure was going to be a Best Picture nominee film. I mean, look at the cast. Sean Penn. I mean, it was top to bottom. The cast was stacked.
Trailer was great.
Yeah, look, it was this crime gangster movie and all this kind of stuff. It had so much going for it, and it's one of the worst films I've ever seen. Probably a top 50 worst film I've ever seen in my life. And just think about that. So that's why I always preface things like, hey, listen, for all we know, it could be bad. Like about any movie. I say, hey, you never know. Look, Craven might be great. Dune 2 might be terrible. So just think about the way Jonathan put it. Think of past disappointments. Just think about that.
That's what I do every day.
It's what I do every day. So yeah, and then that'll help temper your expectations a bit. All right, what's next?
Okay. Leonardo Castaneda says, greetings from Mexico. My Google Chromecast keeps suggesting Atlantic Rim or Transmorphers. How can Asylum be profitable without Blockbuster?
Oh my God.
Also, someone please wake Ray. Ray is up.
Yeah,
Transmorphers.
Remember Transmorphers?
Transmorphers.
Wow.
Snakes on a Train.
Oh my God.
I Am Omega. Remember that one? I Am Omega.
Atlantic Rim.
You know, the funny thing was about when I was running stuff at AMC and we booked our first real studio, our real offices, and we moved in, well, I didn't realize that right next door was Asylum.
Yep.
I had no idea. And the only reason I found out is because a few days after, we were still in the process of moving stuff in and getting all set up. One day we're there and we got the big outdoor doors open and stuff like that. These 4 or 5 guys with handfuls of DVDs come walking in and they're saying, hey, you're John and Schnepp and what do you got for AMC? Like, welcome here. We're like, thank you. Like, we're from next door. We're Asylum. And we're like, you guys are right next door? Like, yeah, we're big fans of Movie Talk. And they brought over a whole stack of their DVDs,
Yeah,
everything from
bunch of
Sharknado
Sharknados.
to Transmorphers. And okay, so to the question, how can they make money? It's really simple. They make those movies for bus fare, which you can tell, and they get enough people to buy them and watch them that exceeds the amount it costs them to make. It's actually quite a profitable little business for them. Like, it's literally one high school kid using After Effects doing all their visual effects. But they've found a business model and it's worked for them. All right, what's next?
We have Raymond Verada who says Avengers Kang Dynasty is now Avengers Fang Dynasty. Simple fix.
Avengers what dynasty?
Fang.
Fang?
Like Fang's Mansion.
Ching Fang
in,
Boom.
Fing
Balls of
Fang
Fury.
Foom? Oh yeah, that would work.
Doom Dynasty.
Doom Dynasty. All right, what's next?
Boo Brady says, I never hear you guys talk about one of my favorite shows, Burn Notice. Ever watch it? It's like James Bond meets MacGyver in Miami.
Now, that's with Evil Dead guy, right? Was it
No,
Burn
that's Bruce Campbell. Oh, yeah, but he wasn't the lead.
No, but Bruce Campbell was like one of the main characters in there, right? Like he was the main supporting guy in that. Yeah, I never did watch Burn Notice. You know what I get that confused with sometimes? What was the one with Lee Pace?
Oh yeah, Bruce Campbell was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he
what
was
was
the
the one
lead.
with Lee Pace where like they're creating the personal computer?
Oh, yeah, that's Catch and Fire.
Yeah, Catch
Halt and Catch
Halt and
Fire.
Catch
Halt
Fire,
and
yeah,
Catch
yeah.
Fire. That's right. I really liked Halt and Catch Fire. That was really good.
Yeah.
But I never did watch Burn Notice. I heard it was really good.
It was
it's kind
cheesy
of like
but fun.
not Suits. What was that other show that everybody's telling us we should watch?
Psych.
Psych, yeah. It's kind of like Psych. Like a whole bunch of people tell me those two shows are really good and I should check them out sometime, but I never did see it, but I heard it was good. All right, what's next?
We got Richard Cutts who says, what do you think of Sony taking over production of Disney's physical media and Disney Movie Club being shut down as a result? Well, we got a sigh out of Rob.
Yeah, it's another one of the last death spirals that's leading to the inevitable eradication. Look, Disney's clearly been trying to get rid of the physical media stuff for a long time. But John, they still put out, I know, but that's part of the last dying gasps. So I'm not surprised. But Rob, this is more your area.
Look,
What
I
do you
think it's
about it?
crazy that one studio is turning over their library to other studios, but it's been happening for a while. Paramount
Yeah.
and Warner Brothers. Now you've got boutique labels are licensing out half of a studio's library if it's 20 years ago or
It's
more.
really odd with Sony because Sony is licensing out their content for digital, but then
Right.
they're taking in the licenses for physical.
Well, the thing is, PlayStation still have drives
Yep,
in them
still
for
have players.
discs.
Yep.
And I'll say this, I mean, Sony, their transfers and things are beautiful. What I'm hoping for this is that they grant Sony the access to both the Fox libraries and the Disney libraries. It is criminal that we don't have 4K remasters of Mary Poppins and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, two of Walt's greatest live action achievements. Why did we not get a Fantasia 4K for the 100th anniversary of Disney? They've done nothing. They've remastered one movie, Disney has, since they've taken the Fox library, one Fox movie. And it's like, why? Why you have this incredible resource? Where's Patton in 4K? Where's The French Connection in 4K? Where are the Planet of the Apes movies remastered? They have a Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie coming out. There's no Fox released the Planet of the Apes movies over and over and over again. There should be a button on
bro.
Disney Plus for the Planet of the Apes franchise. Nothing. And they got a Planet of the Apes movie coming out. There's 10 Planet of the Apes movies. They suck.
All right, what's next?
Okay. Where did I leave off? Richard no, we did that. Ray Loves Trench Coats says there's actually some people in your last couple videos trying to say that Stuckman is pretentious. Why are some people so ignorant?
Yeah, whenever somebody says pretentious, what they're really saying is they don't like the same movies I do. I mean, really, that's what it is in this sphere. The moment I see some say this person, what they're really saying is that person didn't like the same movies I liked. Listen, you're entitled to whatever opinion you want as long as you understand it's an ignorant opinion because you've never met Chris Stuckman. As somebody, like I said, Chris Stuckman and I are not friends, right? But we've broken bread together on a number of occasions. We've gone out for lunch and dinner. He's been on my panel a couple of times. He came into, to my studio on a couple of occasions to do some collab videos and stuff like that. What I can tell you is Chris Stuckman is, and I just did a whole video yesterday talking about how I disagree with him on a number of fundamental things. But Chris Stuckman is really the most unpretentious person I think I've ever met in this business. He is one of the most radically humble guys I've certainly ever met in this business. And while I may have some fundamental philosophical differences with him on, certain things with the entertainment industry and what have you, this is legit a really sweet, unpretentious, super humble guy that I've ever met in this business. So you can think whatever you want, but what you're really saying is he doesn't have the same opinions on some movies you like, and that's why you're saying this shit. But anyway, there's just that. All right, what's next?
We got Boo Brady says, just saw Warrior make top 5 on Netflix. Its time is finally here. I hope Andrew Koji gets more parts for it.
Yeah, they canceled the show after
3 seasons.
After like 3.5 years, 4 years of waiting for season 3, they canceled the show. Wait, hey, listen, that's a show that I never would have thought found a footing or would get a season 2 or would get a season 3. So I'm super just happy for what we got. But like Suits found new life and all that kind of stuff, I hope Warrior finds new life, because that is a wonderful show. Really, really great martial arts, best martial arts I've ever seen in a television show. Hands down, no questions asked. It's easily the best martial arts in any television show ever. All right, what's next?
Okay, we're going to move over to members now. Yo Tej says, have you guys seen the Borderlands trailer as a Borderlands fan?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so we've talked about that already a little bit.
After the Batman 2 and Joker 2, do you think James Gunn will continue back Elseworlds projects, or will the sole focus be on DCU? That's from DC63 Productions.
They will do whatever they think is working. If the Elseworlds stuff continues, like if the next Joker is great and is a big hit, if the next Matt Reeves Batman is great and is a big hit, they will absolutely continue to look at possibilities for that, because it's clearly what the audience is enjoying. It's making them money. And I expect them to continue down the path of things that are working. So if it works, yeah, we can expect more. All right, what's next?
Dominic Suma says, do you think the MonsterVerse will continue after Godzilla X Kong, or does it solely depend on this film's box office?
Bing, 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 bing. Godzilla X Kong makes $175 million at the box office. It's done. Godzilla X Kong makes $535 million. We're going to get the next one. I don't know, Rob, what do you think?
I agree. Well, I agree with that assessment. I think it's going to do pretty well.
I hope so.
I mean, how wild is it? We had a Japanese Godzilla movie make, I think it's the second highest grossing foreign film in American cinemas. And then a couple months later, we get another American Godzilla movie. I never would have thought that there would be 2 Godzilla movies in theaters within 3 months of each other. And I would assume that Godzilla X Kong is going to do quite well, especially with the lead-in. I think people have Godzilla fervor now. You got Monarch, you got Godzilla -1 minus color. Now you've got Godzilla adding pink. So why? I'm excited. I never thought that Godzilla would be as viable an IP as it's suddenly become. Pretty exciting.
All right, what's next?
Where's Rodan? Come on.
Matt says, I'm going to check out this new movie in theaters this weekend called Drive Away Dolls. It's an R-rated comedy road trip movie. Runtime is only 1 hour and 26 minutes.
I wasn't a huge fan of the first trailer. I really liked the second trailer. And it's what the cast is really intriguing. It's won me over. I'm looking forward to watching it. I think it could be another. We've actually had some pretty good comedies in the last year and a half or so.
Yeah.
And I hope this is the next one in that thing. You know what? I still haven't seen Bottoms. Everybody keeps telling me Bottoms is great.
It's hilarious. But I thought Joyride was hilarious too. Those two make a great double feature.
I love Joyride so much. All right. Last question of the day. What's next?
Okay. Let's see. We already talked about that. Have you had any tips or tricks in tampering your expectations for movies you're really excited for? Well, we already talked about that.
Yeah, we already talked about that.
If Shogun is a success, do you think other streaming services will pick up more old school Japanese properties such as Lone Wolf and Cub? I would love to see that.
No, not at all. Because if Shogun is a big success, it's not because it's old Japan. It's because they put together a terrific, intriguing story with rich characters and drama and violence. And that's what it is. It's the fact that it's in old Japan. No studio is going to look, well, no studio with half a brain is going to look say, Well, that one worked because it was just set in old Japan. Well, if that was
Right.
true, we'd have a lot more popular stuff going. So no, I don't think that's the case. But not that in and of itself isn't possible to happen, but it's just going to be separate, Rob, I believe, from whether or not how big or how small the success of Shogun is. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's go back and watch some Kurosawa. You know, Seven Samurai. Go watch Ron. Go watch Throne of Blood. Go watch Yojimbo and Senjuro. Go watch. Well, Rashomon's not a samurai movie, so well it is. but in terms of Lone Wolf and Cub, good call on that. There's all the original Lone Wolf and Cub movies. There's the TV series. There's the manga. And then there's one of the greatest things ever known to man, which is the American amalgamation of the first two Lone Wolf and Cub movies. Came out in 1980, Video Nasty, Shogun Assassin. And if you have not seen Shogun Assassin, you have not lived a full life. Let me tell you. Go see it. It will change everything about your world.
All right, guys. And on that upbeat note, that'll do it for today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show a part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. So, for the people in the room with me, Ray Ora,
I see you later.
Jonathan Voico,
See ya.
writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Ninjas.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.